Greetings. This video is going to be a little bit all over the place. It's said that a coin has two sides, so to see both sides you've got to stand on the edge. So you could say we're on the cutting edge with all this. So give you a sort of bit of a background where I'm at personally. I've spent a lot of time looking at the external, looking at the past. And there is the whole thing of whatever your energy, whatever you give attention to is where your energy is going to flow. But it's been an interesting journey because even looking at the external and trying to piece together what was at one time in this shadow world actually has helped. I can sort of pull it all together. So we're going to go through the darker aspect, and I hope this will make sense, and then I am going to end this with something really positive at the same time, so don't be disheartened. This is all just a video diary, and hopefully that something out of this will make sense to you as well. So I'm often guided these days with what comes up either in notifications or it comes up down the side panel of the home page on YouTube, or can be on Facebook or wherever. It's the only way. Well, you'll know the feeling if you get it. It's more than just that. So you'll just an idle curiosity, shall we say. It's something that's like really grabbed your attention and saying, you need, like an inner voice is saying, you need to look at this. There's something you're going to see in this. So this is what has happened. It's the Captain Kirk channel, and it's a just under 20-minute video called A Portrait of Tatarian Russia. Now don't all scream at me about Tataria and things. I just wanted to make, it is a Pandora's box for anybody who doesn't know about it, and there's plenty of channels I can point you towards to look at these. Martin Liedtke, Flat Earth British, Celtic Tatarian channel, UAP channel, Quantum of Conscience has covered this, Plain Truth 6, Jamie Lee's channel, and of course John Levi, Captain Kirk, Lee, Flat Earth British Sub, and many more. There's so many conspiracies of us and so on. But there are some interesting things. I mean, it is a Pandora's box. It's mind food of the external world. So, like with any food, all I'm going to say to you is just digest as much as you think you can have. Don't be greedy. Don't try and overload yourself. Because this is a thing you'll see with anybody going through this spiritual path. It feels sometimes very overwhelming, and you can burn out and recoil in horror if you look too far down these rabbit holes. The thing to always look at is, how is it going to benefit me? Well, the external world really is all it's going to tell you and confirm for you over and over again, numerous ways, is everything is a lie. So it's up to you if you want to look at it. But I'm just going to show you three stills, or four still pictures from a video. The first three are from Captain Kirk. I made a note of the timestamps. I'll put the links in the description. So hopefully we can do this. This is a sort of typical photo. Sort of doesn't make sense. It might seem a little bit sort of disconnected to what I'm going to be talking about, but it does sort of connect in a way. And if you just use a bit of sort of common sense, suspend any belief, and I warn you now, don't hold any feeling you get from this. Just observe this. I don't want anybody to pick up any negative feelings, but notice like this guy here has got this thick coat on. It looks like he's got gloves in his hand. Hopefully this is showing all right on here. He's got gloves in his hand, and then the usual thing, the arm in the hidden hand sort of reference, which comes up a lot. So that's the first one. That's just it's just little things I observed that may or may not be something. Depends how much you want to go to look at. Now I noticed this girl. Now this Tatari in Russia, it suggests to me it's something like the perception we're giving of the United States as being like the melting pot, because you have this quite an interesting, it's quite an eye-opener just to watch this all 20 minutes of this video. The contrasting styles, you've got almost like a very Russian look about some of them, a very European style of dress, and a very sort of Middle Eastern and Far Eastern and almost Turkish in places. But I thought this was very interesting. Let's see if we can get this lined up properly. If you look at this young girl's headpiece, it reminded me very much of what you see on the Egyptian pharaohs with these bands of colour, and maybe that is what the thing actually looked like, the actual headpiece. But like I say, these are just observations on things that just sort of stood out to me. Make of them what you will. And then the last one, where are we? We're doing this backwards here. Find my last notes. Where are we? Coming up to it any time now. Where is it? It was about 45 seconds in, so we'll just find that. I'm sorry about this, it's difficult to prepare. Now this, I'm sure most of you will recognise, is if I can get this in properly. I'm getting a back reflection which doesn't help. It's 45 seconds in. It's this like cube over the third eye. It sort of reminds me of one of those old tripod cameras with a concertinaed section, and again it seems to be a reference to the third eye. Now it's very sort of that really is the link with some of the things I'm going to be sort of talking about in this. How are we doing for time here? 7 minutes already. Right, so just one final one comes off the Martin Leaker's Flat Earth British channel. Now this is said to, well, we're told that these are created with hammer and chisel, but they're so anatomically correct. And the sheer splendour of these sort of pictures, where you can actually see contrasts behind what looks to be a veil all over the faces. I mean, this is just one sculpture, all said to be done with a hammer and chisel, but what process you would need, it suspends belief. But this is something I've touched on videos a long time ago, a fate worse than death. Now the link here is that saying, rob Peter to pay Paul. I'll come back to that. But some of you probably have experienced the antithesis of lucid dreaming, that is sleep paralysis, where you wake up but your body won't respond, and though you're conscious, you're aware that you're in a room, you're back in this reality, but the body just won't move. Imagine that. Let's crank that up on the dial to a far more extreme level. What if, now bear in mind Peter, the root of that is petrified. Now that can mean scared beyond anything. It can also mean solidified. So imagine if, well, don't imagine, but if you can grasp the idea that if these human vessels could be solidified and basically turned into a statue, that I would have thought would have been a fate worse than death. To be fully conscious and awake and totally unable to move, way beyond your normal sleep paralysis, that would be pretty awful. But don't dwell on that, because I need to sort of bring in about this dark side of it. So this rob Peter to pay Paul. Well, Peter is also rock, which is where we get the word petra and petrified from. So it implies a sound, solid basis. Remember that this is a reality of duality. the external to you is all the shadow. So I'm taking from this that the spiritual growth is about building on a rock solid foundation, which is, I'm going to keep saying this, your best guide ever is not listening to anybody else, it's your gut feeling. That is the place of the Son, the Christ consciousness within inside you. So you've got these rocks. Now, with a bit of etymology in here, you've got a lot of these things are marble. Well, marble, you've got Marvel, so you've got the MA as in magnetic, you've got Ra, and you've got L with a V between, a sort of separation. When you're looking in wonder at things, you marvel at them. But a lot of these statues are marble, so how can we interpret that? Magnetic Ra, Baal, or the B being the duality, Marb L. So it seems to be one is the opposite of the other with this, and likewise I think with this duality, I mean, I can't verify any of this. There's numerous stories about these red-headed 15-foot giants that are cannibalistic, highly aggressive. Most recent reports, I think, came out of Iraq in 2003, and these things are supposed to be that they can lift basically a palm tree out the ground, use them as a baseball bat, and they seem impervious to bullets and can just wipe out entire infantry platoons with one swipe. I'm not getting into the whether it is or isn't. That's nothing to do with this. The point of it is, if you were faced in the physical reality with a giant like that, it's going to be a pretty tough thing to face. But considering that everything is about, in this duality, you have this shadow world that you can feed with the attention you give it and be in fear, or you can build on a solid foundation of love. And I think the perfect analogy here is the David and Goliath story. Now, you remember I showed you the little cube thing? Well, if you think about it, in that David and Goliath story, the pebble is like hit straight there. It's almost, the allegorical story, as I'm interpreting it, is it's cutting off the spiritual supply to this giant, this monster that you're faced against. Now, you can see that monster in any form you want. You can see it as a nation government, and the way this craziness is in this world that's going on around us, it is a giant monster. You can see it as an internationally controlled shadow world government. It's still an enormous monster. But then when we think about what is David, well, I think this is where the vowel shift comes in. So if you think of it as Davad, D-A-V-A-D, so now you've got the Anno Domini and the Domini Anno. So one is like the Latin of after the coming of the Christ, the other one is about beforehand, and again it's split with a V. And as Neville Goddard says, you have a birth from above, you have your one beloved Son, that's your Christ consciousness rising up inside you. The power and the wisdom of God is the Christ consciousness. And the only son is called David, the Davad. Well, you're in the balance between the before being God and also becoming God. This is why it is represented by that name Davad, and that stone, right in the third eye of this giant opposition. That's what I'm taking from this. So, again, I have to reiterate, just stay within yourself. Yeah, if you want to have a look at anything to do with Tataria, I will gladly direct you to channels and things. But it is a Pandora's box, I will tell you that now, and all you're going to get out of it is just further and further confirmation that things are a lie in this reality. That's really all we do need to know about this reality. We we can say, well, I've got this piece of the puzzle, and therefore with this bit, and I add it to this bit, now I've got a chronology. But do we really know if any of it is true? All we know is that we've got an impression of a reality that the way we've been told is vastly different from the evidence. And I'd refer you to the John Levi off-topic channel, where he looks at this, and we've got this very neat story, as he puts it, of 10,000 years ago. Mankind suddenly just started to turn towards agriculture, became more civilized, and started building things. But the chronology of that obviously doesn't fit, because the oldest structures are huge, they're impressive, and then you start getting into the realms of the logistics of how these things were built, where did the materials come from, and the skills. But it's all the shadow world, just don't forget that. But I thought I'd just try and sort of bring some bits together. But I will say, avoid getting sucked into any of these rabbit holes. Look at it with detachment, so you don't pick up any negative feelings from it, because that isn't going to help you at all. So the point I'm at now is, yeah, I still look at things when I feel like I'm guided to look at them, and I can take bits out of those that are actually help. And this is what it's all about. It's what is going to benefit me most from anything I look at in this external world. Some things I will take in and I will evaluate, and that's basically how this video came out. Now, I will, while I think of it, I did say I would give a second shout out to Wallflower's channel. I forgot to say last time, she's got a wonderful recipe on there for making laundry liquids, which is eco-friendly and very cheap, and certainly something any of us could sort of look at. The more skills in this, well, we're in this reality, I don't think it's a bad thing to look at, and we've been given this golden opportunity for a lot of us to look at that. You can stay in fear and worry about how you're going to pay the mortgage and where the money's going to come from. That's not going to go away by giving energy into worrying about it. And are you going to actually come to any sort of conclusion or answer? But if you sort of go within and develop the spiritual growth and the mastery of thoughts, that don't be fooled, that is not easy. If you're sitting in meditation contemplating about something, the mind can so easily just wander off without you even realising it. It happens to me a lot, and I have to pull myself back again. But it's practice makes perfect with all these things. So a bit of a convoluted video, but hopefully it does tie some bits in for people. But like I say, it is all a Pandora's box if you look at any of these rabbit holes. Really, it is all about looking internally at everything, and I'm going to say it again, go with the gut feeling on everything. That is by far your best guide. That is your own Christ consciousness that is talking to you, and whether we listen to it or not, that's our free will. So that's where I'm at the moment, and hopefully it makes sense to some of you out there anyway. So I'm going to say ta-ta for now, still smiling here. Yeah, that's it really. So another video as and when.